In 1941, the Secretary of the Navy published an updated uniform regulation guide for all sailors. In this video, I will be going over those specifications for enlisted sailors, and I will provide examples of what those uniforms looked like. Starting with the dress uniforms, these were worn by enlisted Navy personnel for events such as ceremonies, parades, or reviews. They could also be worn for on-duty activities, however they were not working uniforms and were not to be soiled. There are three types of dress uniforms prescribed in the 1941 regulations: the dress blue A, the dress blue B, and the dress white. I am going to go over each of these uniforms individually and display their components, starting with the dress blue A. The dress blue A was mainly used in ceremonies, however sailors would also be seen wearing it on liberty or leave as well as certain on-duty situations. The first component of this uniform is the dress blue jumper. This is the traditional jumper that you would see Navy sailors wearing even predating the Second World War. The specifications in the 1941 regulations for these components are outlined on the right. The important things to note for this jumper is that it was no longer tucked in, unlike previous versions, and instead used a drawstring to garner that tucked-in effect. The next component are the blue trousers, commonly referred to as the bell-bottom trousers for their wide openings at the bottom. They consisted of 13 buttons in the front. Sailors could wear a blue cap with this uniform, however this cap would be phased out during the war and replaced with the more standard Dixie cup hat, which will be seen in later uniforms. Lastly, with all dress uniforms, sailors would wear a black neckerchief tied in a square knot at the front. It was to be folded diagonally into a band approximately 3 inches wide. In this photo, you can see the sailor wearing all the components previously outlined for this uniform. Some basic components that are also included are a white undershirt, black socks, and black shoes, as well as any ribbons that the sailor had earned. The next uniform in the dress section is the dress blue B. This uniform is almost exactly the same as the dress blue A, having the dress blue jumper, trousers, and neckerchief. However, the cover prescribed for this uniform is the white hat, replacing the blue cap from the previous uniform. This white hat is mainly referred to as the Dixie cup. This style of the dress blue was more prevalent than the dress blue A, especially towards the latter years of the war. In this picture again, you can see the sailor wearing the same uniform components as the previous sailor, however he now dons the white hat for the dress blue B standards. The last dress uniform is the dress white. This was a summer uniform to replace the dress blue in hot weather conditions. Unlike the dress blue, which is a year-round uniform, this uniform was only allowed to be worn in warmer months or warmer places. The first component of this uniform is the white dress jumper. This jumper was fairly similar to the blue dress jumper, however the navy blue was replaced with white cloth, with the sailor collar and cuffs retaining the navy blue color. Sailors wore white trousers with this, with a fly front rather than the 13-button front seen on the bell-bottom trousers. Like the dress blue uniform, sailors wore the white hat and black neckerchief. This picture shows a sailor wearing the dress white uniform. This photo predates the Second World War, however it shows exactly what the dress white consists of, with the jumper, trousers, cover, and neckerchief. Another important note, all of these dress uniforms could be upgraded to full dress uniforms, where sailors were permitted to wear medals that they were awarded on their uniform, however the components stayed exactly the same. The next set of uniforms are the undress uniforms. These were semi-formal uniforms that were worn both on and off duty. The first undress uniform is the undress blue A. This was the winter service uniform and worn for daily duties that required a semi-formal appearance. The first component of this uniform is the blue undress jumper. This was similar to the blue dress jumper, however the collar came without trimming and the cuffs were removed. This uniform donned the same blue trousers and blue cap that the previous dress blue uniforms had. However, there were additional considerations for this uniform. Sailors were permitted to wear a watch cap in place of the blue cap in cold weather conditions. This watch cap was essentially shaped like a beanie and provided more protection around the facial areas than the blue cap did. Another thing sailors would often wear in the event of cold weather was a jersey underneath the jumper. This jersey was an all-wool knit garment with collar and cuffs that provided even more cold weather protection. This photo shows a sailor in the Undress Blue A. Notice the hat and the jumper correspond to the Undress Blue A uniform standards. Similar to how the dress uniforms were set up, the Undress Blue B was the same as the Undress Blue A, with the blue cap replaced with the white hat. The same cold weather protections applied, allowing sailors to replace the white hat with the watch cap and to wear the jersey underneath the jumper. This sailor is wearing the Undress Blue B uniform standards with the Dixie cap, the Undress Blue jumper, and the blue trousers. The Undress White A had similar traits to the Dress White. It was permitted as a summer light duty or off-duty uniform, however was also used for ceremonial or duty roles after the Dress Whites were rolled out. The first component for the Undress White A was the white undress jumper. Again, the difference includes the removal of the cuffs and collar trimmings. The white trousers and white hat were consistent with what was worn for the Dress White. These sailors are wearing undress white uniforms. They were wearing neckerchiefs, which was allowed in this uniform, however was not necessary. Unlike the dress uniforms, the undress uniforms have a designated Undress White B. This again is similar to the Undress White A, however it was worn without the white undress jumper. Before moving on to the specialized uniforms, I would like to make a brief note that there was a third class of uniforms titled working uniforms. These were the same exact specifications as the previous undress uniforms that I just discussed, however authorized sailors to wear, quote, old clothes in accordance with the dirtiness of the work they may have to do. Lastly, I will go over some of the specialized uniforms that sailors may have worn. The first of these uniforms are the Dungarees. This uniform was considered even less of a dress uniform than the working uniforms, and were only worn when the nature of a sailor's work would soil their other uniforms. The first component of this uniform is the blue denim jumper. This jumper was made of blue denim and essentially acted as a jacket for the Dungaree uniform. This leads me to the next component, the blue chambray shirt. According to the 1941 regulations, the chambray shirt was not permitted to be worn in conjunction with the blue denim jumper. However, historical photos seem to suggest this rule was loosely followed. Sailors would wear blue denim trousers made out of the same material as the jumper. The designated cover for this uniform was the white hat, seen in previous uniforms already. These sailors are all wearing the dungarees without the denim jacket. Notice the Dixie cap, the chambray shirt, and the denim trousers. The next specialized uniform is the tropical uniform. The possession of this uniform is optional and was permitted to be worn in tropical and semi-tropical climates during warm periods. The first component of this uniform were the shorts, made of either white or khaki cotton material and secured with a waistband. This was paired with a plain cotton undershirt, similar to the white undress B. The main cover for this uniform again is the white hat. However, a tropical helmet was in regulations on shore stations only and may have been worn in place of the white hat. On the other side of the spectrum are the designated special winter clothing. Enlisted personnel were permitted to wear these garments when they underwent continuous exposure to severely cold weather. The first component of this uniform is the winter jacket, a fully lined flannel jacket with a zipper and pockets. Sailors would wear cold weather trousers that had an overall type cut to them with arctics for footwear. Additional parts to this uniform include goggles, a face mask, and gloves. The prescribed cover was a cold weather helmet that utilized a chin strap and 2 snap loops to support the goggles. Lastly, sailors were permitted to wear foul weather clothing in times of heavy rains. The components of this uniform include a short coat made of waterproof material, as well as foul weather trousers, to be made of the same material as the coat. Sailors would either wear rubber boots, arctics, or overshoes. Lastly, the sou'wester was the prescribed foul weather hat, again being made out of waterproof material and providing more width to shed water away. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you would like a more in-depth description of all these uniform regulations and uniform standards, I will have a hyperlink to my website page in the description to take you right to that, and you can view more information related to these uniforms.